There we are. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Happy Friday. You know what? I'm going to do my decoy because as you know, when I'm a few minutes late, you can anticipate there was some kind of crazy demonic, you know, extraterrestrial activity happening in the house 2 minutes before I went live, of course. So I didn't have a chance to run down for a better drink, but I'm going to hold my decoy because I just had one of these great rebels and I'm going to do, actually, there's a drop left. Mm. Happy Friday. Good to see you. Happy cocktail night. We are in for a cozy rug night tonight. This stuff is just fantastic. Hard eggnog latte, right? This is just, I think I'm a little bit too bright here. I think we got enough problems without that, right? Oh, there we go. What happened was I heard some beeping in the distance and I thought, oh, I hope that's not my car. How could that possibly be my car? My keys are hanging down by the hook. But of course, it was my car. And the keys were in my husband's pocket. And he was dozing on the couch. And he must have rolled over and detonated the thing. And why am I the... don't get me started. Why am I the only person who hears that? It's a, that's it. Enough said on the subject. Mystery is solved. Nancy Drew has been working overtime, and we are ready for some fun and a nice night together. Tonight, we are going to be looking at the latest issue of, among other things, Rug Hooking Magazine, with this beautiful cover, composition by somebody in our group said Kay LaFave. So we're going to be looking at this in great detail in terms of technique because this is a really unusual cover piece. Spectacular. I'm hoping the camera isn't going to disturb you. The stand also broke a minute before the show, so I have it leaning on something. I'm hoping it doesn't make weird noises. Please tell me if there's anything technical happening that is odd, you know. So, otherwise, Buttons is adorable. He is. He got his hair cut. He doesn't look like such a shameful animal anymore. He was looking like such a hot mess for so long. But you know, with Buttons, you know, he's a little Yorkie and everybody gets to feel how they feel, right? But he feels like he doesn't really like strangers and he definitely doesn't like being handled by anybody that's not in the family or a close friend. And unfortunately, the lady who had been cutting his hair, she got very high and mighty, according to my mom, who was the person who was like bringing him and dropping him. And I guess she felt that she didn't want to cut a dog's hair anymore, who wasn't brought to her on like an insanely regular basis, right? Like, I mean, I'm gonna say I think I've been to the hairdresser once since COVID. The dog has been a few times, right? But not every week, right? We aren't those kinds of dog people. I mean, I can't afford to be that kind of a dog person. But she decided, I think that, you know, it was like we were some kind of like low lives that we weren't bringing him, you know, every other week for a haircut. So she didn't want to take him anymore, and then he didn't want to go anywhere, and he was being really difficult. But finally, we found somebody at Petco. I don't know why I made that face. I just wasn't expecting it, but the groomer was fantastic, and she buzzed him right down to his little wrinkly skin, and he looks fantastic. He is so cute. Linda B. Terrific issue to share tonight. Cheers, my dears. You are so. I have water now because I figure probably one rebel is enough, particularly after that car thing, right? That ramped me right up. That's the kind of thing I get so ramped about. It's just really unnecessary, both it happening and my reaction. I've been so keyed up lately. I took my, you know, I did a blood test and they put that big cotton ball on and tape it and it just, I hate going for a blood test, but I thought, let me get everything checked. Blood pressure, heart stuff, diabetes, all that stuff, because I've just been feeling a bit weird, you know. And I thought, I'm sure most of it is stress that I bring on myself and behaving badly, like when I broke the thing the other day. But fingers crossed, fingers crossed. It went very, very well. I was so nervous. I hate having my blood drawn. I don't mind like having children, but having needles stuck in me, that isn't for me. Melissa, great to see you, sweet picture. He is a good boy. Maybe he'll come up and visit. He is a good boy. He looks so little with his haircut like that. He looks like a baby again. Oh, Buttons. Kirsten, good to see you. Happy Friday. You're about to pour some homemade cider, Jack. Man, that sounds fantastic. fantastic. I saw this book the other day at the bookstore. It was called Fire Cider or Cider Fire, one or the other. It was a kind of a cookbook. And I was going to pick it up, and I had a bunch of other stuff, and I thought, yeah, I don't even know what it is, so I'm not going to take it. But then I looked on it on Amazon, and it looked like an interesting book. That's what made me think of that. I think I'm going to order it and check out some of the recipes. I have another great book recommendation coming up later in the episode. Mom, you got there. My mom alerted me that I forgot to put the thing up. I didn't have my computer this morning, so I wasn't able to. I have to physically do it on the computer the day of. But then I had my computer and I still forgot. So, Mom, thank you so much for letting me know. Happy cocktail night. Cheers, my dears. Sharon, great to see you. Hello from cool but sunny Vancouver. Well, that part's good. Looking forward to receiving my copy. Hope it gets there soon. Mine just came, I think on Wednesday. Mm, I think it came Wednesday because I remember thinking, oh, this would be a good episode, but there wasn't enough time to open it and all that. So I think it was Wednesday for me. I know we all get it at different times. Of course, in Canada, it would be a little bit skewered, just a little bit. Linda H., happy cocktail night. Great to see you. Michelle, great to see you. Happy Friday, y'all. Oh, I'd love to see that maple leaf. There are so many leaves on the ground right now. We went from no autumn, just rain, to like intense autumn for a few days, and now the leaves are on the ground. And some of the leaves, I got to figure out what kind of leaves these are. I ought to know, but honestly, they're bigger than my head. I've got to take a picture. Oh no, I'm not walking the kids to school tomorrow. I was going to say, I was walking along the sidewalk, dropping them off and picking them up, and it was literally like that sort of poetic visual of just walking knee deep in leaves, huge leaves, and crunching underfoot. It was just that ultimate autumn feeling. I haven't had that moment for a long time where you're walking along the sidewalk and you're literally burrowing a path because the leaves are so deep. Really exciting, really exciting. I prefer that, I think, even to fantastic color. It's just so great, the visual and the sound of the leaves. Oh, so cute, so cute. I was looking at buttons, so I said cute, but so atmospheric right now. It's so charming. As soon as you walk out the door, such a New England week we're having. Melanie, hello from Washington. Hope you had a great Halloween too. We had a great Halloween. It was really, really, really good. Goes by so fast. That's the only thing. Shannon, I was going to write you back. I'm so sorry. I got so bogged down today. Everything is all right. I just had to go to the doctor, and I hate that. And then I ran a bunch of crazy errands, and I made myself late. And I went to pick up one of Teddy's buddies who might pop in later. I won't pressure him because he's a cool guy, but Teddy's been having a friend from his old school over a lot, Cameron. And he is such a nice kid. He's such a nice kid. Yeah, he's more sort of visibly autistic than Ted, but he's got like such incredible singing talent. He sings like rap music, and he does a lot of rapping, but it's very rhythmic and hypnotic, and he's just got such talent. It's just so interesting. All of the kids are also different, unique, special, right? In the best possible way. They're all just it's great when they find each other. That's the thing. Ryan, great to see you. Happy Friday from sunny and beautiful North Texas, drinking some bee's knees. You like those bee's knees. I remember that. Peace and love to y'all. You too. Diane, great to see you. Happy Friday. I was working on tons of dyeing today. A lot of that was for you. Great, great kits coming your way. Shiny things, Mauda Maiden. I was working on another dye one. Gosh, what was it? It'll come to me. There was a few that I was missing some colors for, so I did. Since yesterday, I've dyed. Honest to God, you're not going to believe me, but I've probably done maybe 120 colors, just just to stock back up, which is great. Which is great. I've been busy, man. I've been plodding away. I did have an adventure yesterday. I'll tell you about that because it was a really inspiring adventure too. Joy, great to see you from Port Charlotte, Florida. Really happy to see you. And Joyce, happy Friday night. Great to see you too. Wendy, great to see you. Greetings from Western Pennsylvania. You had a sunny blue sky today. That is fantastic. Happy Friday. That is a great gateway to the weekend, isn't it? I know, Joy. I know just where you're from. I fixed it for you. Dave, great to see you. Pizza and hard cider tonight. It's a big hard cider night. Now I feel left out. I don't have any hard cider though. I've just got more of these um, alcoholic coffees, and they are good, creamy and festive, and probably a million calories. So I'll just stick with the water. One is probably good for me because I also have to drive Cameron back later after the show. Oh, they have a good couple hours. So, Marty, great to see you in Glenville, New York. Happy Friday. Karen, happy Friday. Your hummingbirds came out so good. So, for the next gallery night, which will probably be in 2 weeks, we're going to be able to see Karen's hummingbirds. Maybe you saw them if you're online on Facebook, but we were looking at them because they're done with all different kinds of, it's like a bit of a needle sampler. Really bewildering stitches, just absolutely gorgeous and very, very fine, very complicated. So we'll take a good look at that on cocktail night. I was thinking about maybe next week, depending on how things shake out, I was thinking about maybe doing, remember we did that one crossword puzzle night once where I created a crossword puzzle and it had to do with rugs and rug makers and designers and things to do with rugs. And there were lots of visuals for every, do you remember every slide? But I put the blank crossword puzzle up first so that for a few days before you were able to fill in the crossword. And I thought, ooh, that was fun. I really enjoyed writing the crossword for that. I wonder if that's something that we would like to do again, because then all the answers brought us, remember, to different slides where we could talk about specific things. I really enjoyed that. I'm just looking at the calendar really quick. Oh, so next weekend is Veterans Day, which is great. And next weekend is also the fairy tale rugs in Durham. I think that's New Hampshire. So I'll be sure over next weekend to go and do that and document that too. We've seen the fairy tale rugs and we've enjoyed the book immensely, but I would really like to see them in person as well. This coming weekend, as in tomorrow and Sunday, is the Big E Fiber Festival. So the one that is in southern Massachusetts. So I'm going to go to that tomorrow. Um, yeah, I'm going to go to that tomorrow because I know for sure that my buddy Naomi is there, and I think maybe Haley from Loop by Loop is there. I think I have at least a couple of buddies who actually are setting up a stall. And I also want to see the fiber and do a little bit of shoppy shops. So I think I'll do that tomorrow, and I'm gonna bring my camera in, and I'll see if I can do some live footage too. See if we can like have some conversations, little quick ones here and there. I think that would be really fun. I might attempt to go live on I was going to say on Facebook, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just record it on YouTube because if I go live on Facebook, then not everybody can see it who don't use Facebook. So I think I'll just stick with YouTube and I'll just record some nice videos here and there and put those up for you tomorrow. So I'll be there tomorrow for just a few hours. Then I got to get back to work. Yeah, Pierre, great to see you. Great to see you. Gosh, I haven't touched base in forever. Great to see you. I am good. I am busy as ever, but actually happier than usual. Weird. No drugs, nothing from the doctor, just happier than usual. Got it together a little bit. Isn't that weird? For the moment anyway. Jessica, great to see you. I saw a great piece that you posted in the Facebook group today. I always keep one eye on the Facebook group, but I just can't be on there all the time. There are now, I think, 16,200 people in that group. It seems to grow by 100 every time I look at it. So I'll keep looking at it, right? Really great group. If you don't belong to it, think about it. It is not a typical Facebook group. Kirsten is on there as an admin. Jay is on there as an admin. There's a couple other buddies who are on there as admins who I trust implicitly. And, whenever there's something sketchy happening, things get reported quickly. There were some stupid t-shirt scams this week. I hate stuff like that. Scams are so sophisticated nowadays, too. It's just berserk, and what for. But yeah, it's a very nice group because as soon as someone says something crappy, it's an eject. It's to press that eject button and whoosh, right through the skylight. No questions asked. None of that. Just none of that. It's got to be a friendly page or just not having it, right? So if you are not on Facebook and you're thinking, oh, but I'd like to see things more often. I'd like to participate in conversations about how things are done and snowballing ideas and all that, but I don't think I'm a Facebook person. You can check out the group without joining or joining even Facebook. I think you can at least look at stuff, and I think you can anyway. Maybe not comment, but I think you can at least check stuff out. I thought it used to be like that, Anyway, it is a wonderful group. It's well worth it, even if you don't want to do personal stuff online, you know. Maureen, great to see you in Ontario, Canada. Happy Friday night. Welcome. And Karen says, Melanie, no Halloween here ever, no trick-or-treaters, except by appointment. Karen, it's probably very remote, right? You live in a nice area, from what I understand. And my buddy Rebecca said the same thing. She got like 5 trick-or-treaters, and she said it was the most they've ever had, which is crazy because here we are in the hundreds. We're not necessarily at this house because we take off, but one street over, 2 streets over, we are in the hundreds and like in the 1,000 to 1,500 kid count. It's absolutely crazy here because this is a great neighborhood because the houses are really close together, not city close together, but pretty close together. But it's still, everybody who lives here pretty much works at Yale up the road. So it's a great mix of different people from different places. It's a really diverse neighborhood. There's lots of languages here. There's lots of different kinds of people here. And, everybody pretty much is affiliated with Yale in one way or the other, or Quinnipiac in the opposite direction. So very nice people in the neighborhood. Everybody's very busy, and but the houses are fairly close together, and you usually don't get those two things together. When the houses are close together, it's like you usually get maybe stretches of houses where people aren't putting out candy, or it's like not super friendly, or maybe more of a city vibe. But we hit the sweet spot right here, and we have a crazy, crazy amount of trick-or-treaters. Dashboard. Diane says, I'm so excited. Oh, it's so much good stuff. Diane, I'm going to send it to you in installments. So I sent the grab bags just to get rid of those. Hopefully those came. And then I'm going to do like 3 or 4 kits, get them out, and then work on the next set and get them out. I've started everything, but I'll just start shooting kits to you so that you can get going. And yeah, I'm excited too. I can't wait to see what you work on. I can't wait to see what you're going to start with. I think I'm going to send Mauda Maiden, Shiny Things, and Fluffy Pumpkin. I'm going to send those 3 hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully the wool dries downstairs. It's in the kitchen. That's what I'm waiting for, is for it to dry so I can cut it and stick it in the bag. Ryan said, birds of a feather flock together. That's right. Happy for Teddy and his friend. Me too. I'm so happy for them. He's such a nice kid too. And I met his grandmother today because he spends a lot of time with his grandmother, Teddy's friend. And she came out. She looked so good. She looked like she was my age. I could be a grandmother, right, in my 50s easily. And she was so nice. She came out and gave me a big hug. And I said, oh, is it okay if I take them out for fast food again? Because I'm always taking them out for fast food, like once a week, And I said, we're going to go to Wendy's. Is that all right? And she said, oh, that's great. And she was just so nice. She said, I'm so happy that Cam, found Teddy too, because it's hard for kids that have special needs to make sincere connections and to feel comfortable with each other. It's hard for any of us. But imagine if you're like really different. So it's good. It's really good. I feel very happy for them. Dee in Las Vegas, great to see you. Happy Friday night. Gosh, that sounds exciting. Cindy, hello in Minnesota. Great to see you. And when do your pig's breakfast die kit started? So I'm still recording that video. I promise I'm going to finish it soon. It has been nonstop, but good. It's going to be a great video. Highly edited by my daughter Jocelyn. And Melanie says, we never have any trick-or-treaters either. Whitney, happy Friday to you too, Whitney. Great to see you. Oh, don't do this. Okay. I was having a technical glitch. I like Kirsten does like blocking the bad guys. There is some satisfaction in catching like really slimy people, right, who are like posting not nice things on the Facebook group. There is some great satisfaction in catching them and rounding them up and ejecting them. Judy, great to see you. She does an amazing job, doesn't she, Judy? She really does. You've never seen a negative post. Thank you for saying that. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everybody who. I think there's 3 admins on that site right now. Shannon, I've got to get you on that site too. And once in a while, I do it. I always have a hard time making decisions about posts because I often see posts come up where there is a copyright issue, and I think, it's a tough one because I'm thinking, all right, well, it's often people who are from different places too, and I'm very happy that this is turning into a world craft. And I don't want to be discouraging, and I want to be welcoming. And I know copyright laws work differently in different places, so it's often hard. I often leave the tough posts for Kirsten to decide because sometimes I just don't have the heart to hit, decline. And because I think, oh, they did such a nice video too, and if they're just making a pillow for their granddaughter, like, honestly, who cares? I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say this being someone in the business, but who cares? Gosh, believe me, if I make stuff that has like Pokemon and stuff for the kids, I don't show it on the Facebook group, but guess what? Guess what they want? Jessica says the Facebook group is wonderful. Oh, it is wonderful. It's a very, very inspiring group for me too. Moni, great to see you. Happy Friday night. It's great to see you. Kirsten is the best. Kirsten is the best. I get so much help from so many different arenas. Jane helps from Wales with a lot of stuff. Shannon helps with a crazy amount of stuff. Our gallery nights and just day-to-day stuff. Stuff within the inbox and letters and things like that. And yeah, we're definitely ramping up to more excitement and more projects. So there's lots of stuff. We're about to level up, I think, and it's going to be fun. So let's come over to our slideshow for tonight, and let's see. Let me start with a little bit of the news. What have we got? Okay, so I posted a couple videos in the last 2 days. The first video I posted was, it was for the people who had gotten the Autumn Advent Calendar. I did it on Halloween, and then I couldn't post the video on Halloween because I needed Jocelyn to edit it for me. And she was busy because she was getting dressed for Halloween, and then we went trick-or-treating, and then we went to bed. So it was late, but it was a great video, I think, on wool applique, because in that Halloween Advent calendar, the Autumn Advent calendar, I had cut out a bunch of pumpkins on my Sizzix, but not the, strips, like pumpkin shapes, with squares. And the idea was to put together kind of a little hanging thing with pumpkin faces that were appliqued onto the backing. And for people who didn't want to do that, you could just cut up the wool squares and hook with them, because they were like plaid wools and patterned wools. So I finally did that video, and that went up the day before yesterday. No, that went up yesterday. And today, the video that I just showed you the thumbnail for went up. It is, the question is, the theme is, can I hook with felt, like felt from the big box craft store, and fleece? So that video addresses, that's another about 10-minute video. So pretty quick watch. That one went up this afternoon. And me too, Ryan. I love that Joss edits the video. She is a little tech savant. She really is. I don't know how she does it. Her fingers are like this. And if you watch that Halloween one, she worked in a copyright-free, beautiful Halloween song, a little bit like Danse Macabre, but not copyrighted. It was just a bit of a magical song when I did the high speed and my hand was... And when you hear a different song in the recent videos that's like da 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 do 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 do, she actually composed that song on her keyboard with her computer, and she looped it. And sometimes in the videos, the most recent videos, if you hear that, she wants that to be like my theme song, and she composed that. She's 10. She's such an amazing person. The little button face. Oh, Wendy, the little button faces on the pumpkin were delightful. Thank you so much. I just happened to, I was going to stitch everything, and I happened to have my button box out for Diane shiny things. And I dumped the whole thing, and I went, "Ooh, I think I have a better idea than stitching the face. I think let's do button face." Oh, Pamela, great to see you. Hello in Liberty, South Carolina. So good to see you. Happy Friday. You're not late at all. You are great. So those 2 videos are coming out, and tomorrow I'm going to do some more with videos, because I will be at this Springfield, the Big E Fiber Fest. Now, here are some other products I have not had time to put online yet. I promise I will. Hopefully tonight. There's a bunch of things I need to do tonight, including send the tarot class and what is it? What do I want to say? Presentation, and post these, because I finally have dates for the events. This is the Very Jane Austen Advent Calendar that it'll start to be available, I'm going to say, in 2 weeks. So why don't I start to ship? Today's the 3rd. I'm going to start to ship the week of the 13th, November 13th. And I thought it was a 20-day calendar. It is a 25-day calendar. So you can see these are little bags that feature different characters from Jane Austen novels and quotes, scenes, and they do have a Christmassy theme with trees and such. And I will be doing almost every day, at least 5 days a week, a short choose-your-own-adventure that revolve around Jane Austen as the main character, kind of like mystery adventures, like the old choose-your-own-adventure books. And you all will be able to vote. I will put the text on both YouTube and the Facebook group. and the Ribbon Candy Hooking Shop, and you will be able to vote on what Jane's next move is. And over the course of the month, the things that Jane does will kick up a bunch of patterns, right? That will be either available in the shop or free with the Advent calendar, or free through Patreon, because my group through Patreon, who sponsors the brand, I like to kick some things that way. By the way, I'm almost finished my draft and I have my pattern for you. I'm sorry that I'm late again this month, but I have a great pattern for you that I just want to tweak one more time. But this product I will put in the store. It'll become available. It will have a limited run, and it is going to be fun. It's going to be very interactive for the whole month, just like the autumn advent calendar was. But this advent calendar is going to contain mostly luxury type items. So wool, velvet, some yarn, some high-end yarns. It's going to be a more luxury set. And I have some visions for some of the projects to do with it. It's not going to have as big of a variety of material as the autumn one did, because that was all about learning lots of different techniques in one month, and I'm not even done recording those videos yet. I still have to do the felt ball rug and one other, the quillies. This one is going to be less technique oriented, more design oriented, and lots of material. So 25 bags full of material. And again, more luxury materials, more of a pale winter palette, what I think of as a Jane Austen palette. Nothing too loud, nothing too glaring, very sort of conservative but lovely Georgian themed palette to go with a whole month of Jane. And I think we will, right after the holidays, do a book club thing with one of the, probably Northanger Abbey. That's my favorite. Does anybody have a favorite Jane Austen book? I'd go with anything, but I feel like I'll be listening, and in order to write in the style of to do the Choose Your Own Adventures for that month, I'll be reading and listening on audiobook to some Jane Austens just to beef up. But I would love to do a book club right after, for example, between Christmas and the New Year, so we can get on again and maybe start the book club again for 2024. We started and then it fizzled out. I got very busy with the two books, but maybe we can get back into that. Maybe that's a good opportunity to get back into that. So that's something we can loop in. This is something else you can look for hopefully later today. I also have a date for this. This is the design like Frost and Frost. And it will be designing like Edward Sands Frost, meaning using stencils. Now, it's not necessarily these stencils because these are some of my previous stencils. I might use some of them. Pamela, it is a great book, isn't it? That's my favorite by far. But, I mean, I like all of them, of course. So we'll be using stencils like Edward Sands Frost, but illustrating Robert Frost's poems. So it's going to be a very different class. There's going to be a focus on Robert Frost and using stencils, Edward Sands Frost. And there will be an option on this product to either download at no additional cost, download the template so you can cut out on printer paper the stencils and use them while we do very specific exercises in class, because we are trying to match scenes that we make and compositions we make to Robert Frost's poems, right? So it's going to be a fun, very atmospheric chapter of design like. So this is coming up on November 29th, which is a Wednesday, and December 3rd, so the week after Thanksgiving. I was really careful about that. Now, the next thing I have to show you, I have to say it does not look spectacular, but it is going to be spectacular. This is one of my favorite things that I've ever done. It's not, I'm warning you, it's not going to look like a lot right now, but this was my idea for the next hook along. I'm not even going to say to myself I'm going to hook the whole thing, because it just takes too long and my mouth runs, and it takes a long time, you know. And I get hot under the lamp and I want to get up and walk around. So I want to hook for, I would say, 3.5 hours when I do a hook along. Beyond that, I feel like I'm growing roots in the ground, and, you know, I'm getting stiff in every part of my skeleton. It's just, I'm getting old, right? So, for the next hook along, there is going to be a choice of 2 sizes for your piece. But what I wanted to do something with a winter theme, not necessarily Christmas. And I was thinking to myself, I want to do something with a tree. I celebrate Christmas. I know not everybody celebrates Christmas, but trees, I think, are one of the universal signs of winter and the holidays. Great symbol for green, right, and rebirth and all of that stuff, things lasting and living on. But I was thinking, okay, So if I want to start with the idea of doing a hook along that involves a tree, what is the most famous tree motif in all of rug hooking? I mean, we might have different opinions on this, and I mean, we might differ hugely. But in my opinion, the most famous rug hooking tree of all time is Magdalena Bryan or EB's lollipop tree. So I've been working on. I've been working on. I'm reading your comments too, Karen. A design that involves a tree. Now remember, this could be in two different sizes. This is what it looks like. I haven't colored it yet. I just sketched it and took a picture of it on my card table, on my, collapsible card table, which is, just a hot mess. So let me show you what the design looks like, and let me see if I can talk you through it. So you can see what I see. This piece is going to be called Magdalena's Christmas, and it's going to come either quite small, like maybe, I don't know, 13 across, and then much larger, so twice the size. And I'm going to be working on one that's twice the size. So what I did with the Magdalena tree was I turned it into an evergreen, right? Thank you, Cindy. It seems like a no-brainer. I got really excited. This was one of my middle of the night thoughts. And I tried to make it look like Magdalena in the background by crowding in animals and some of her motifs, but I didn't want to do the whole farmyard. I wanted to keep it really specific, right? Because this is happening on November 30th, so right before December. I thought we could at least start it together. It can come as a kit. Thank you, Diane. But it can also just come as a pattern, or it can come on fiber tape, and you can do it however you want to do it. And, I know some people will want to do this in the Magdalena style with the really earthy colors, very wide primitive cut. You're noticing, I'm sure, that I put reindeers in and stars. So reindeer, I think plural, are not an animal that she ever used, but certainly, everything on four legs, everything else on four legs. I just gave them like the reindeer kind of rack, so they looked a bit more festive and stylized. And then I just dropped in a bunch of stars, and I didn't want to fool with cows, pigs, birds, whatever, because I just wanted to keep it very holiday. You could always substitute different things. I put a bunch of stars in because I wanted it to be crowded with motifs. And then I did that very spotty, interrupted lamb's tongue around the edge because she loved that. So my idea for this, the way that I'm going to hook it and the way that I'm going to kit it, for those of you who get the kit, and again, you can get just the fiber tape and transfer it yourself, or you can get it a pattern on any backing you want. You could even get it as a mini punch piece. So the one that I'm going to kit is the one that is going to be like I'm going to make it, which will be, Kirsten, what did I say? I think the tree is going to be white, as if it had been snowed upon. The background I'm thinking I'm going to do in a mixed velvet, but mixed greens. So a kind of reversal of what you would expect. The tree is not evergreen. The tree is white, like kind of like a vintage 1950s tree, snowy. And then the background is sort of color changing, very rich stretch velvet. And the lamb's tongues are going to be, the stars and the reindeer are going to be wool. Now the question with this piece is going to be, this is something to think about. This product is not available yet, but hopefully later tonight also. My goal is to get these 3 products up after the show and drive Cam home. We'll see. So definitely looks like 5. Yeah, it really depends on what size you want it, how you want to hook it, that kind of thing. It can be hooked in yarn and stay smaller, and I think you can get a lot of detail. But the question is going to be, how do you want to handle, I'm going to say the fruit, right? Because with the Magdalena tree, it really looks, 50s, yep. It really looks like fruit, like apples or whatever, but to me it looks like a family tree. But I'm going to say fruit as a placeholder. I'm going to give you 4 different options, right, intellectually, so you can think about it and then make a decision whenever, if you decide to even want to do this pattern. One of them is to just hook it straight the way it is and hook the circles on the tree, the fruits. The second option, depending on the size that you choose, is to make pennies, like a little penny rug, and with different colors of your teeny tiny scrappies. Maybe even like some little pennies with a little sequin sewn onto the middle or glued onto the middle, right? That would be super cute. Maybe with a bead onto a sequin, onto like a little penny. Whole bunch of those would be super cute. So straight up hooking pennies or quillies, right? The wrapped up kind of peppermint little cinnabuns, little quillies. That could be super, super, super cute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook the background with the white, and then I'm going to bust out my collection of glitzy buttons. Yeah. And, I talk about this all the time because I'm such a sucker for those mid century, those jewelry trees you sometimes see in vintage stores. And it's like usually a piece of black velvet in a frame. And someone has put a bunch of pins and mismatching, like glitzy one off earrings and everything that shines in the shape of a tree. Well, that's one of my inspirations for how I'm going to hook mine. I have a good collection of buttons, and I'm going to drop the buttons and things into the fruits and make it a super glitzy tree. So those are things to think about as this product. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to get it on the scanner bed. I'm going to maybe pre-color it a little bit on the computer, so that there's a kind of a vision to show you what kind of colors I will put if I kit it. But I hope that a lot of people will like this pattern, do this pattern in both sizes. The smaller size, very fast to execute, and the larger size, if you really want to get in there with detail, maybe put pennies or quillies into it. You might want something that's a little bit bigger. So this is a coming up soon project. And the hook along date, I already have it for you, is November 30th. It's a Thursday. I'm going to start again at 6, and I'm going to go probably till 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I think that'll be a lot of fun for us, something really to look forward to. So we have plenty of time leading up to that, and I will get those products going. I need to catch up. Hang on. Whitney says, what number is the best sweet spot for the Ultra Punch needle? Um, so for the Ultra Punch, there aren't size. Oh, do you mean in terms of? So the Ultra Punch is, I'm sure you know this, isn't the same as the traditional punch. It's the really tiny one that can only accommodate a piece of floss going through, like um, Valdani floss or even the DMC floss. But sometimes you need to unply it if you've got a very, very fine mini punch. But some of the mini punches are adjustable and make different heights. For me, whenever I mini punch, I always go for height number A or 1. I like the shortest height. The you can go even closer and lower pile than the A or 1 depending on the brand that you're holding, right, of the needle. But I like to anything lower makes me nervous because I don't want it to pop back through. So when I use my Pretty Punch, for example, that's an A. I think Ultra Punch is numbered. So I always go for the lowest official first setting so that the pile for me is just right and it's not too shaggy and pixelated. That's what I would do. But if I were going to punch it with a traditional punch, I would punch it with a fine as opposed to a regular. And I would use all kinds of 2-ply yarn, sock yarn, maybe a little bit of mohair mixed in, maybe some sparkly stuff that you find at the craft store that's really, really thin that you can mix in with even acrylic yarn. That would work really well with a fine or regular punch. But I would do it with the fine because if you're doing the smaller size, you get a little bit more detail. Pamela says, your Nana's costume jewelry. I still wear mine. That's exactly what it is, isn't it? But it would be cute on a tree. Only if you've lost some of it or it's damaged or a little bit rusted up or there's stones missing and it ain't worth bringing to the jeweler, that kind of thing. It's fun to find that stuff. And it can also be a work in progress. You could always drop in buttons that are like, meh, knowing that, throughout the year or next year or future years, you might just have your eyes open when you go to antique stores. It's like, yeah, I often see jars of buttons or cards of buttons. That's a lot of fun to incorporate into a fiber piece, and it's something that doesn't break the bank, even like really nice buttons. And National Button Day is coming up on November 17th. I have something special for you. But when you go to antique stores, it's like you don't always feel like you shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to buy a rug, everything in here is $1,500. Sometimes you just find the most beautiful buttons, and if you save them through the year and add them to your tree, that is something so special and a work in progress. And you could do a pattern like that over and over and over again with different, maybe not the exact same one, but I have a lot of different versions of the Magdalena tree. This is the only one that's like an evergreen shape. But I think it'll be very, very fun for us to play with. And I think it's the perfect thing to get you started for the hook along. And then you can work on it for the whole month of December, right? You have 1 or 2 days left in November. And then the whole month of December, as you feel like it, you could be working on it and adding bits and bobs on. It should be a really fun project for all of us, I think. Paula says, I saw your interview with Robin Whitford. Thank you so much. She was a great interviewer. She made it really easy, and she was sincerely sweet and friendly, which I really like. It's so important when somebody's asking you questions about your. So my knee jerk reaction is even though my mouth runs here, it's controlled and it's under, it's in my terms kind of thing. So my knee jerk reaction isn't to say, to be very careful about what I say. But she was so nice. I just felt like I just wanted to talk to her because she had such a nice demeanor. She was very, very gentle. She seems like an amazing person. I want to get to know her a lot better too. And Pamela says, your Nana's costume jewelry. And Melissa says, Jana, Merry Christmas to me. Exactly. I love it too. I'm glad that you love that idea, Melissa. I love that idea. And Paula says, how do I get to register for the Christmas hook-along? So Paula, that will be out. I'm going to try to post that later tonight. It's not there yet. It's just set up, but it's not live. I was putting a date on it right before I started the thing and the horn started going off in the driveway. So I'm going to put the product up tonight, and then it will be possible to sign up for it. You can log on no matter what. You don't have to sign up for anything or buy anything to log on and spend that 3 or 4 hours with me while I hook it. But if you want the pattern or the kit, that product should be up later tonight, and it will be a drop down box where it says, do you just want like the pattern? Do you want it on what backing, or do you want the kit and what size? So that should be up later today, and I'll just remind you that the hook along will take place on November 30th, which is a Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That should be a really fun one for you. We are both part of her group. Oh, how fun, Maureen. That's really fun. She seems super lovely. Super lovely. Yeah, she was very easy to talk to. Oh, thank you, Wendy. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. Now, come back over here. Let's do some more fun stuff, and then we're going to be looking at that magazine. My voice is giving up a little bit. We have a bit of sickness in this house. It's not the big C. Oh gosh, I have to share this with you. Let me share this with you real quick. You know how on the last episode, I think it was Wednesday, I got myself into that mood where I couldn't find anything, and I said, does anybody have a good storage system for your rug hooking stuff? Because I've been really struggling. I've got a lot of stuff, and I've got a lot of patterns. And Nina wrote to me on, let me pull this up. Such a clever idea. Nina, let me see. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get the name. Oh, you just wrote Nina. Nina wrote to me a great Gmail, and she said, I have this system that I use. And let me just pull this up, and I want to show you what she does in her closet, because I thought, man, you are a genius. You have got this together big time. So she wrote and she described it to me, and I wrote back, and I could perfectly picture what she meant in terms of storage. And I wrote back, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that. That is brilliant, and I think I can use that idea, because right now everything is going to H in a handbasket. Honest to God, it's like insane. It's like hoarder's paradise, both at home and at my studio. So I was very enthusiastic in my response, and she wrote right back, Dear Deanna, your exuberance got me to jump right out of the bed and take a photo of the rack that she had described. I retired the business pre-COVID, so it's a bit defunct now. Now let me go back and show you she sent pictures of 2 racks here. So she said, as you can see, I have some, I was talking about hanging patterns, which I could do in exactly the same way. She's got racks like in a store, like the bars that are bolted to the wall. And she said, as you can see, I have samples left, which I've been crafting with, and that's how I've come to explore rug hooking. In fact, I think I've discovered a new rug hooking backing. Mind, it's a conundrum since I've no actual experience beyond hooking these 3. And then she shows this great piece. Look at this. You're going to flip your flipper. Hang on. Wait, I'm having a technical struggle. So she had a textile business, and she is figuring out that she can rug hook onto these textile backings. I'm not sure if she's hooking or punching. It might be that she's punching. But hang on for just a second. Let's get a little bit further. And she says, I'm a weaver. Thus, I've been using what I have available here, wool being in short supply in, guess where she lives? Hawaii. I've so appreciated your ability to demystify hooking. So she is hooking for me. I was feeling intimidated. Not sure what I'm doing is technically hooking, but it is fun. And I am using a fine rug hook. There we go. Along with a small crochet hook. So there's that. Perfect. Perfect. Brilliant. My low-tech sample rack held up well over the 25 years I ran my shop. My husband, eager to get the fibers out of the living room, also built me a 12 by 12 room off of the carport. Hint, hint. LOL. Anyway, Deanna, if you want to have some fun coloring in a pattern on my Hawaiian rug hook backing fabric, but actually hooking with fine wool strips or yarn, I could send you some fabric samples. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna take her up on that. I would love that. And she says samples of the backing I envision as being the next new hit. I love that. There's 3 different fabric weaves, and aside from my novice attempts at hooking, the fabrics are really lovely. Send an address if you want to try. Oh my gosh, I will. I do want to try. I'd also appreciate your opinion of using this fabric as backing for hooking. Nantucket style, question mark, rug hooking? No. So Nantucket style means hooking with yarn. And really sort of uber Nantucket style means hooking with yarn without a hoop or a frame, like Claire Murray does, just wrapping it over her lap and under her legs. That's Nantucket style, hooking with yarn officially. No, it sounds like you are rug hooking and you have found a backing that looks like bark cloth but contemporary. And this is one of these perfect storm situations where you have found something that works really, really well. And it's fibers from the store, right, that you had for 25 years, I think you said. I mean, this is just amazing. So you've got your fibers, you wanted to do something with them, and you've been experimenting with doing like a coloring book, filling them in with rug hooking. Now, it doesn't get any better than this, does it? These kinds of discoveries are, this is why we're here, isn't it? This is so super exciting. So I'm going to write back to Nina and say, oh, I would love that. I would really love that. And I will do a video. I mean, she gave us comprehensive photos and they're beautiful, but I'll do a video because I would love to try that too. It reminds me of hooking. I have to start the show, don't I? It reminds me of hooking into burlap bags, like old, burlap sacks, right, of like grain and feed and stuff, and how they had those beautiful graphics. It reminds me of that, but these are way more colorful. And you can see how she even left some of the backgrounds visible, right? The colors. I mean, this has just got my heart going. It's a good thing I got some blood work done tonight, right? Because this could really do me in thinking about those racks. And what we were really talking about initially was display and how to display your stuff. So excuse me, this is really smart. And I could do this too with my fiber tape and my patterns, just folding them up and putting them on a hanger like this. This makes a lot of sense. And just like looking through the brasiers at TJ Maxx, you can see the circle things. You can get stuff like that that says like holiday, people, animals, geometrics, right? Florals, whatever you want. And then man, it's right there for you. No foraging through stuff or things spilling out of boxes and kicking boxes accidentally or not across the room. This is all right there for you in a very sensible way. And it's also very pleasing to look at. So for me, this system is a win-win in every possible way. And it is just the icing on the cake that Nina figured out that she could do hooking into this. And good for you. That is really, really, really exciting. Both thin wool strips and yarn. So this isn't Nantucket hooking. This is Nina hooking, right? We're creating a new chapter in a future book that is for you, Nina, and it's going to be about the way that you figured out how to hook this. This is fantastic. This is the spirit of the craft. So I am working my way toward the magazine. We'll do some of it tonight for sure, but I have to show you. I was a bit of I played truant a little bit yesterday. I had to go out for a while in the middle of the day yesterday because there was an amazing exhibit at the Norman Rockwell Museum. Oh gosh, that reminds me. Um, and the exhibit is closing. I think today was the last day, and it was an exhibit on Tony Sarg, Sarg. And I will tell you a little bit about him in just a second. I just want to show you. I noticed. Here we go. I noticed something at the Norman Rockwell Museum. If you remember, I think it was 3 Thanksgivings ago on Thanksgiving Day. I did a Norman Rockwell episode, and we were looking at rugs and Norman Rockwell paintings. Did you see this one? It was a lot of fun. But I didn't see this example. I only found, I think, hooked rugs and rag rugs. But because the Norman Rockwell Museum in Stockbridge, Massachusetts is constantly rotating the collection, because he has thousands of paintings, right? In his lifetime, he painted thousands of paintings. This one is called The Judge versus Widow Anderson. It's from 1929. I'm going to hold it up and show it to you because I forgot to put it in the slideshow like a ding dong. But this is the only Norman Rockwell I found so far that actually shows a hooked rug, not a rag rug or a braided rug. Um, and this is what it looks like. I can put it up for you. I'll put it up in our Facebook group too. I know it's not in focus. Hang on. Still not in focus. Hang on. Come on, you stinker. Because this is the rug on the floor that I want to show you. It's, I mean, it's a commercial rug. It's not like it's super exciting. Maybe. Yeah, a little bit. My heart stopped when I saw that. Because like I said, not only have I not seen this particular rug um, in the museum, I haven't seen this, I'm sorry, painting. I haven't seen this painting at all. So, and I'm pretty up on my Norman Rockwell, so I was really surprised. I'll post that in Facebook too, so you can look at that. I thought that was a great find, and it made me wonder, because of course he didn't just do paintings for the cover of the Saturday Evening Post. He did paintings for so many different things, publications, and not just like advertising and illustration, but just paintings. So if he did one, there's likely to be more, and that was exciting for me because like I said, I had not found a hooked rug from Rockwell yet. But I went to the Norman Rockwell Museum to see this exhibit on Tony Sarg. And maybe that's not a super famous name, but he was a quite famous illustrator. He was born like in the 1880s. I think he died in the I want to say, yeah, he died in the 1940s. I think he died right before the end of the Second World War, something like 41, 42, something like that. So that's like the bookends for his life. But depending on your age, from what I understood in the exhibit, and I didn't know this, Tony Sarg had a line of toy stores, and his brand was quite well known back in the day, right? This would have been a while ago because he died in the 40s, right? So maybe this is something that passes down through families. So you've heard this, or you have some toys at home, or somebody does, but you've heard the name. He's very famous for having designed the first balloons for the Macy Day Parade. And it was such an interesting exhibit. I got super inspiration. You're going to see some of the inspiration from this exhibit popping up in my work in the near future because I was so inspired. He's actually a puppeteer. And the thing that this is a Norman Rockwell Museum, it's so, God, if you ever have the chance to go, maybe it's something we can do together on a future trip where we plan a bunch of rug things and I loop this in because who doesn't want to go to Stockbridge and walk around that famous Main Street and visit this museum? It is honestly, it's so much fun. It's incredible. Now, the thing that really got me, this is a story. So the thing that really got me is um, he was a puppeteer and he created it's got to be the 1920s. He created some like floats for the Macy's Day Parade, and he modeled the characters on the floats after the animals that were at the Brooklyn Zoo. So, or maybe the Central Park Zoo, one of them, right? One of the New York zoos. So he thought, what a great idea, right? Tying it all together, keeping it local. But the animals, right, which were inflatable, scared kids, like as the parade was coming through. And Mr. Macy considered it not successful. So he didn't give up on Tony because he was such a powerhouse with his toy stores, with his illustrating. He would soon illustrate for the World's Fair that was about to open in New York, right? Put out a whole bunch of merchandise that was really unique and different for that fair. Mr. Macy said to him, "Do you have any other ideas?" Right? That one didn't go well, but I don't want to. I don't want to write you off. I think we can do a better parade. Do you have any other ideas for something that we could put in a parade that would not be scary for kids, that would be really fun, like your puppets? And he said, oh, I love this. He said, yeah, I do have an idea. I've been thinking about this. What if we put in my puppets upside down? In other words, they're not puppets like this, like with strings coming down like marionettes. We're talking about balloons that are filled with helium, and they are above you, and the puppet strings are below. So it's a reverse of a puppet. And that's how he saw them at first. They didn't have a word for them. So he's saying, well, they're upside down puppets and they're going to be way up in the sky and they're going to be so big. And Mr. Macy said, that's a good idea. And guess what? Guess what? What will we look forward to seeing again on this November, right? November Thanksgiving Day, right? Is the Macy's Day Parade and all those great. I love seeing the old balloons and the new balloons. And the part where this story takes this crazy twist that I think is so interesting is Tony, he lived on Nantucket at this time where one of his stores was, and his wife, the reason he opened the stores was because his wife really wanted like a job, and she wanted to work it can be for Ultra Punch Whitney, the Magdalena tree. She wanted to have a job too, so they were on Nantucket, and he decided to advertise these big balloons that he was doing by creating this crazy hoax. And this is what he did. And this is very, very famous on Nantucket. He had a bunch of fishermen say that they had seen a sea monster like out in the water. And they did. And they came back to the harbor, and word got around town that there was a sea monster out in the water. And everybody was talking about it. Newspapers were covering it, not just local, but all over the place. And then a sea monster appeared on the water in the distance on the horizon. And of course, everybody was electric with fear and excitement, and they could see this thing in the distance, and it looked like this. And look at the top picture, right, in the distance, and people went, "You've got to be kidding me! What the heck is that?" And it was just the head. He had inflated just the head, and then he inflated the whole. He explained this was kind of not a hoax, but more of a joke. He inflated the whole thing. He brought it onto South Beach in Nantucket, if you know Nantucket. And it turned into this is a repro of it, and it is much, much, much smaller. This is on the lawn of the Norman Rockwell Museum, but it's a repro in the same color of the sea monster. But he inflated the whole thing. Oops, sorry, that's out of order. And he brought it onto the beach, and these are some photos on the beach. Everybody came down to, can you imagine this day? I mean, I so wish that I was here. This is like the 1930s. This is an enormous sea monster. You can see by the shape of it, and people are posing with it. And this was the best kind of advertising that could have happened. So by the time the Macy's Day Parade came around with all of the balloons, people were very, very, very excited. And this is one of the first balloons, right? The turkey, I think, is the first. That one's the one on the left. The cat was one of the first, and these were not scary. The handlers are dressed like clowns, which was what they did back in the day, early, for those early parades. But man, just so much fun. And they were hand painting them, right? Just like this. They're hand painting them. It was so inspiring. Honest to God, I just was so... The art, the design quality to it. I bought the book on Tony Sarg. It was published by the Norman Rockwell Museum. It's a big book. It's only like $39. It's not just his puppets and his balloons. It's all of his art, like these little pots, which I'm gonna have to start collecting. All kinds of little bits and pieces, things that he did. It was so much fun. So I'm working on oops, sorry about that. I'm working on a design that is based on how exciting that exhibit was. You know, when you go to your local museums and historical societies, you never know if what you see is really going to resonate with you. But in this case, it really did for me. I got so excited. So when you see a big trend in patterns that involve like the Macy's Day Parade, you know where it's coming from. Nothing comes from nothing with me. It was really, really inspiring. You know what else is really inspiring is this issue of Rug Cooking Magazine. I have to say the last few issues have been a little bit, they've been great, but this issue is like phenomenal. So I feel like I feel like the last issues, they were kind of trying to get into stride, right? New editor. I felt like it was trying to fall into a new groove and really beautiful, but not super cohesive, and either not cohesive or a little bit repetitious, whereas this issue, I think we hit gold. I think we've got the golden formula for the ideal sort of breakdown of a rug cooking magazine. Table of contents. It remains a fairly small copy, right? So I think we're going more for, it is 87 pages. So it's not an enormous copy, but wait till you see what is in this thing. You're going to be astounded at the variety. And in the case of this issue, I feel like in past months this issue has done the best job with showing us a wide variety of techniques and styles, not just massive, epic articles, that are like 30 out of the 90 pages, right? But we're seeing a real breakdown of different articles that would speak to different people who are interested in different styles and using different tools. And I thought it was really curious and also very positive that it actually says on the cover of the magazine, not much, right? Not much cozy holiday crafting. I love that. But also punch needle project in every issue. And I think this is great. I meant to say to my friend Rebecca of Storyteller Wool, Rebecca Martin, I wanted to talk to her about. This is the kind of stuff we talk about. We talk every day. This is the kind of stuff we talk about. Whitney, I'll come back in just a second to that. But, I wanted to ask her about this because historically she's been a punch needler. And I think she has felt historically, I don't want to speak too much for her, as a lot of my friends who are predominantly punch needle people, right? Rebecca is certified in both, Pearl McGowan rug hooking and Amy Oxford punching. But so she does everything. But, I know historically there has been a bit of an attitude. We can't say that there has not about punch needle, right? Is it the same? Should it be, even on the Facebook page, there was an early conversation about should punch needle be here? Well, it's here to stay. And I like that rug hooking is really committing to the craft by putting it right here on the cover. Every issue, you're going to see some stuff on punch needle. So I think that is a really, really positive message. So Whitney says, pertains to my question about the floss for punch needle. Okay, let me go back to that. I'm sorry, Whitney. Let me go back to that. This is for Ultra Punch. Hold on just a second. Let me go back up and let me see if I can grab you. What number is the best? Oh, sweet spot for the Ultra Punch needle. Okay, pertains to my question about floss. So Whitney, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Because there's different brands of floss, but if there are different like ply of floss, I'm not knowledgeable about that at all. So for mini punch, you can definitely use the brand Valdoni, Valdoni, which is wonderful. It's the little tiny spools, and they are pricey depending on where you shop. A little spool is between $3 and $5 each. But remember, you need many, 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 right? Like shades of colors. Sometimes even more if it's a fancy store. A lot of people for punch use, I like to use the vintage spools, which I get on eBay. They are 100% acrylic. I have some right here. Coincidentally, they look like this. And it's super, super, super thin. Super, super thin. So I use this for my Ultra Punch or my Pretty Punch. It's hard to, it's 2-ply. It's impossible to see here, but it's the gauge, I would say, is a lace weight yarn. I will also say that for both my Ultra Punch and my Vintage Pretty Punch, I can also run, the Ultra Punch has a changeable tip, whereas the Pretty Punch does not. It's adjustable in terms of the height, the length of the shaft. But it's not, you can't remove the tip and put a different tip on that would accommodate a thicker thread. So I will say that for both of the punches, those are my two favorites that I use the most. I will say that I can also use in both of those kinds of punches, sock yarn, lace yarn, mohair, stuff like that, depending on the actual skein. That's the thing. Some of my sock yarn is a bit mushy, heading more toward a decay, and I can't get it through a punch needle. But others are still supposed to be sock yarn, and I can, and they punch great. So it really depends. Once you have a punch, if you have the Ultra Punch or whatever needle you've got, I would say just experiment with finding different weights of thread and yarn and see what you like punching, because it's not even like I could say, so sock yarn also fits, because not all sock yarns fit, but most of them do. And some of them do, but they snag too often, and then I go, oh, it ain't worth it. Not for this. So it's a very hard question to answer. If someone has a better answer, get in there. But I use the things I already have, and It's just the same with my standard punches. It's always a game of, is this fiber going to work in this tool? So it's, I'm sorry, it's not an easy one. It's not a straightforward one to answer. Um, and Cindy said rug hooking can be difficult for some, while the rug punch is easier, especially those like me with arthritis. Absolutely, the motion of doing this is a lot easier than doing this, right? That's much more of a complex, and mostly for the hand underneath that's doing these fine motor movements, much more complex with both hands. That's very true. I would love a magazine dedicated to punch, Sharon says. Interesting. There is a magazine dedicated to punch, but it is in Spanish, and I think it's in Brazil. I think it's based in Brazil. I have some copies at the studio. I'll see if I can find them and show them, because while the text is in Spanish, um, would it be Spanish? Might be Portuguese. But anyway, it's not English. While the text is not English, the photos are pretty universal, and the patterns that it comes with. So I'll look for those at the studio, and as soon as I find those, I'll show those in an episode. That it's very, very fun. That's the only one that I know of that's devoted exclusively just all punch. And yeah, Whitney, I'm sorry I can't do better. I can't do better with that question. It's so different from fiber to fiber. Totally agree. Punch needle and ultra punch are easier and better for me. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And Karen says a lot of ultra punch requires 3 strands of DMC. Yeah. So in that, so with what Karen's saying, DMC seems like the low hanging fruit, right? Like, oh, it's easy to get. It's very economical. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got a great luster to it. But with many punch needles, even the DMC is too thick to go through, because it is quite thick, you know. So when that happens, you would have to cut a length of it and unply 1 or 2 threads from it, and then still use it. But you have to unply it to make it a little bit thinner to work through it. But you could absolutely use DMC, knowing that you might have to take that extra step, which is fairly labor intensive. And let's see. Oh, Linda said, Sharon, Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher is a magazine you might like. It is a good one. It's very mixed. I should cover that one once in a while, because I have some issues. It's fairly mixed, the projects. It's also needle crafts in there. I love the magazine. It's super fun. The one thing I would say about that magazine, it's not a criticism, because I love the style. It's always the same artists who are providing the patterns and the projects. And while there's nothing wrong with that, um, if you don't absolutely love the artists who seem to appear in every issue, that would be the only tripper of a problem, you know. It is a beautiful magazine. It's beautifully edited and very professional, very inspiring magazine. That's usually at like Barnes and Noble, you know. Certainly online too. It's always on Amazon and things like that. You can sign up for a subscription as well. Um, I don't think it is digital, Sharon. Linda, do you know if that's digital? I feel like I don't. I don't think so. I'm not sure. It's worth a look for sure. And Cindy says, yes, you split it, the DMC, just to make it a little bit thinner to fit through. You do what you've got to do, right? You do what makes sense. And Sharon says, I looked up their website and it looks like they both print in digital subscriptions or options. So there you go. That's fantastic. If you're happy with the computer format, the patterns are going to be there to print off. So that works okay too. If you're okay with not having something open in front of you, I'm not. That's why I say that. I'm not okay with that. Um, but it is a beautiful magazine. I really like that one. That was a good catch. And Karen says, as far as Valdani, I use 1 strand of Valdani for 6 strands of DMC. Fantastic conversion. That's the breakdown of the math. So Karen's saying, as far as Valdani, 1 strand of Valdani equals 6 strands of, no, wait a minute. Um, 1 strand of DMC equals 6 strands of Valdani. So the Valdani, right, is much, much, much finer. It gives a completely different look than punching with DMC. They're both beautiful, but the Valdani for me, it's so fine. You can't mistake it for any other fiber. And the DMC always looks, it shines, right? Because it has that high luster. There's no way around that. But the good things about it, whether or not you like the shine, that's the question. But the good thing about it is, well, it's very inexpensive. It's quite easy to find. They now do lots of color changing stuff. They also do a few metallics. also remember I recorded some episodes at Judy's place, the Thistle Needleworks on the Celestine Highway in Wethersfield, Connecticut. And I grabbed a bunch of her tiny skeins of yarn. They look like they're this big, right? Twisted up like little hanks. Some of them metallic, some multi, some solid, some high luster, some flat. And I grabbed a bunch of those and I was punching with those, right? That was a whole era, like early in the summer. I could not stop going over to the needlepoint store and picking up supplies that were meant for needlepoint, which are super fine because they're meant to go through the eye of the needle, right? So those would be fibers to look at too. Maybe it's a good place instead of starting at Joann's in the floss aisle with the DMC. Maybe see if there's a needlepoint store near you because they're a lot less rare than rug hooking stores. And then you would have really your pick of most needlepoint stores are overwhelmingly great. And the fibers go from like a hair, like a tiny hair, like an angel, hair from an angel, right? Ply, and to much, much, much thicker. So that could be a good place to start if you want variety. And also the quantities that you get at a needlepoint store are tiny quantities because when we're talking about stitching, right, you rarely need a large amount. So that was good too because you know, everything costs a lot of money, right? You can't get away from that. Everything costs a fortune. It's like staggering, sticker shock as soon as you leave the house. But the thing with the needlepoint stores is they're smaller quantities, right? And it's maybe all you need for your project, particularly with mini punch. And it's like you're looking at price tags that are like $3, $5. Sometimes seven is like, ooh, seven, because it's small and you need like lots of colors. It's like, ooh, 7 times. If I want 20 colors, kind of getting there at that point. But, you know, it is a small price tag per piece as opposed to, for example, a knitting store where we're looking at price tags that are like $36, $38 for a skein of wool and you get one color, right? So, or one, you know, one skein. So that could be an interesting thought too. I was very inspired in the needlepoint store when I got back into mini punch because I felt like that was the hornet's nest of supplies. And I went back and forth, I think 1 week, 3 times to get different colors and to pick some metallics. That could be a really good thing. All right, let's do this. So let's start looking at the magazine. And again, fantastic issue. Let's start by looking at the cover. And Kirsten told me that during the hook along yesterday, there was a lot of conversation about Kay Lefebvre's cover. Let me pull this up. I know it's later in the presentation, but I want to start with it. I had a bit of a change of heart because I don't want to miss it. This piece appears actually at the end of, toward the end of the magazine, in a regular feature of Rug Hooking Magazine. And this is, again, the November-December 2023 issue. This section, right, is a monthly article, a monthly feature that's called Dear Beginning Rug Hooker. And this particular article is by Gwen Dixon, and it's called Creative Flow and Rug Hooking. Staying positive, focused, energized, and in the moment. And lots of different examples, a lot of Dion Fitzpatrick, Gwen Dixon herself. I might show some of these later. These aren't in the slideshow. I don't show everything from the magazine because I want to leave you wanting more, right, to tout the magazine properly. But this is the feature that Polar Bear Hug is in. And I'll just show you this. Wait a minute. Let me stand my butt up here. Let me just show you this because it is the cover. It is the cover piece. And Kirsten said there was a lot of conversation about the techniques that were being used in this piece. And I can well see that because, and let me bring you back here too, and let me take a look at it myself. So this is a tough one. There's absolutely hooked yarn. That's the easy one. There's absolutely hooked yarn. What I'm seeing in here looks, in my opinion, right, and I'll see if Kay said anything about it. What we're talking about, I think, is the fact that there is such high relief kind of Waldeboro, but even more so happening in the body of the main polar bear, right? So this is a very, very high relief section, and we are seeing wrinkles. I mean, it's very, very unusual. I think, for lack of a better word, in terms of rug hooking language, we should use the term Waldoboro. While it's not necessarily packed as finely as Waldoboro in terms of technique, this seems to me to be a similar effect. Where, in my opinion, I'm guessing what she's doing is alternating quite low pile hooking with wool yarn, like wool yarn, and then here hooking with a much this looks like, and I could be wrong because I don't know and I haven't talked to Kay. It looks like mini punch. It's not mini punch, but it looks like when in mini punch, if you remember this era of mini punch in the 80s and 90s, where you would punch very, very, very high, and then you would clip your pile, right? So it's a clipped pile, and then it came with a little brush that you, and the brush made it look wild, like real fur. That's what it's reminding me of. It looks exactly like that. I wouldn't be surprised if this was hooked or punched. I think probably hooked very high, not Waldoboro, not shape. This isn't. I don't think this is a dome. I think it's just raised, more like trapunto than like really three-dimensional. I think it has been hooked quite high, clipped, and then brushed. That would be my guess, because it looks so much like that technique, right? Just with a different tool. I'm also looking at the section under here where the snow is. And to me, I don't know, but this snowy section under here, to me, looks like it's hooked with a very textured yarn. You know, the yarns that are like lumpy bumpies that go like a little bit of yarn and then boop, and then a little bit boop, lots of that. Trying to think of if that category of yarn has a specific name, but I think you know what I mean, right? The little I think my guess would be that the whole snowy area is hooked with that, and it's typically, that kind of yarn is typically like a chenille. So when you get to the parts, it's very cut, and it looks like a little pom-pom. You do see these yarns both in high-end craft stores, knitting stores, but also in the big box stores. You see it in both. Slubs, that's a good one, Judy. That's a good one. That's good. That's perfect. That's the word that I want for sure. Thick and thin yarn. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think for this area it's thick and thin yarn. I think it's one yarn. I think it's one yarn that's very sort of lofty and loosely spun, that was cut with scissors and then brushed a little bit to act, in my opinion, right? I want to emphasize that because I don't know, to emphasize, right? Because it almost returns to kind of a roving state of being. It's so soft and tactile. It looks very realistic. I think once it's been brushed a little bit, right, with like like a wire brush, like a dog brush, carefully, right? Once it's been brushed a little bit, I think you would untwist whatever twist was at one time present in the yarn. But once you've cut it and you work through it a little bit with a brush, I think you're there. Fur yarn, it could be fur yarn, Karen, but if it's fur yarn, it's still clipped. So this is my thing about, this is why I think it might not be fur yarn. And I'm not an expert on this stuff, right? I just use materials too. I don't think it's fur yarn because most of the fur yarns are, number one, 100% acrylic, or at least 100% some synthetic. And they are typically, I don't want to say low quality. They aren't, let me be careful about how I phrase this. If you watch the video that I just did on hooking with felt, right? While I was hooking with felt, and I can't recommend it, it can break quite easily because it is not a woven. It's not a fabric, right? It is like pressed into being. It doesn't, the particles that make up the felt are synthetic, unless you're talking about wool felt, which we were not in the video. This is going to relate, right? They don't have any relationship to each other. They are not like intertwined. They're not interwoven. They don't have any relationship to each other. And it makes it very easy for materials that are pressed rather than woven or loomed to break. And that fur yarn, that's how that yarn works, right? So the fur yarn is a synthetic, and it's not attached to anything. It's just attached to itself very loosely and lightly. And you could, with the fur yarn, all of the ones that I've used anyway, easily rip it with your hands because it's not actually attached to itself. Whereas with like wool yarn, it is spun, right? And it's one piece that has been stretched and spun to whatever sort of thickness and texture, but it is one piece of yarn. It's connected to itself, right? Like a rope walk, like a mini rope walk. It's whereas the fur yarn is not. So it could be because the fur yarn would give this great soft look, but I think this looks more like wool than the fur yarn. The fur yarn is fantastic, and you could do great stuff with that. But as soon as you cut the fur yarn, first of all, 90% of it falls away, right? It atomizes in your hand. It's great to hook with, but again, as soon as you cut it, it's a giant crazy mess. So I'm not sure. I did 2 projects with fur yarn last Christmas, those 2 cats, if you remember. And it was very fun hooking with them, but I was very careful when I cut it because there was so much loss. But I could easily be wrong, and I love it when I'm wrong because that means that I'm learning something new too. Kirsten says, could it be stuffed under, you mean like trapunto style to raise it? It could definitely be. So I think what Kirsten's saying is, could it be acrylic fur is shiny? Yeah, acrylic fur is shiny. This looks fairly shiny though. It's hard to say. I think what Kirsten is saying is are the raised sections trapunto? And this, I would say, let's refer back to the shows that I have done on Grace Collette, right? The iconic Grace Collette, because she does so much trapunto in her rug hooking work. And trapunto means, if you don't remember it from the 70s, I definitely do, that under the backing fabric, you have sewn, for example, another piece of fabric that's this shape, right onto the backing fabric, and you hook it, and then you cut from behind into the back, not the part that you just hooked, but into the back, little slit, and then you stuff it with a sewing needle, like stuffing, like a stuffed animal, and it raises just that localized point that you stitched around, right? That's trapunto. So this could well be trapunto, and these like little wrinkles could well be trapunto. Let me look inside the issue, applique sheep wool. It could be. It absolutely could be. Karen, that to me is much more likely. It could be sheep wool. It could be hooked, because you can get sheep wool or locks, curls, all different kinds. If you've been to a fiber festival, in any natural color plus any dyed color, you see tables, baskets, right? I hope I see this tomorrow. Baskets of sheep curls, right, that are different kinds of sheep, right, in different bags. And sometimes it's like, fill this bag for $5. Oh, yes, please. And it's all different, and you can hook with that quite easily. So this could well be that. It doesn't look like that though. Let me see what she said. Let's start. It's fun to speculate because we just gave ourselves a bunch of ideas that could work. Sheep wool on skin. Sheep wool on skin, it could definitely be. It could definitely be. I thought you meant hooking with it. It could definitely be the skin with the wool attached. It absolutely could be. Applique on. Karen, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. That could well be. She doesn't say, Cindy says. And Pam says, it does look like sheep wool for sure. It does. It could be an applique patch of sheep wool. It absolutely could. It could be a mix of sheep wool here, this part, the head, right, wherever you see the dit dots, that is definitely, I don't even think it's punched. I think it's very clear that it's hooked because of the differences of height, right? It's an extraordinary piece. It brings up all kinds of questions. I am pretty comfortable with this being that chenille slubby yarn. That looks right to me. And Karen, I'm gonna go for your guess that this is an applique piece of skin. Do I think you could do it in some of the other ways we just mentioned? Do I think you can do it by hooking it, particularly with trapunto behind it, stuffing it from behind, and clipping it and brushing it, teasing it out a little bit? I think you absolutely could. Is that the quickest way? No, I think sewing a piece of sheep skin on it is the quickest way and the most, assured way of having it look like this. It's a bit of a trompe-l'oeil piece, isn't it? It's a bit of a trompe-l'oeil piece. So maybe more on that. It looks like the little bear is attached as well, Cindy says. It's hard to say. With the little bear, he's kind of resting on this very three-dimensional piece of hooking right here. And it looks like some of that is roving, right? It's a little bit hard to tell even with the photograph, but it looks like a little bit of this is roving. So there's a bit of a fluffy, cottony kind of three-dimensional quality in this fold right here that's supposed to be the mother's skin. But I think he is hooked. Just the same. I think he is hooked right on the backing. I think the two faces are hooked right on the backing and the paws. I think we deviate when we get to the neck, the arm, and the snow. I don't know. That would be my guess. That's what it looks like to me. I think we hit on some great stuff though. There's a lot. We're talking about skin, aren't we? There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. That's an awful expression, but it's true. And I think, like I said, any of the things that we just mentioned, I think you could get very, very close to this look. Even if you're not talking about something that's almost completely monochromatic, that is a couple of polar bears. I think if you wanted to do something with this effect, the techniques that we just talked about are well worth practicing, looking at and practicing. Because until you start hooking something and then pulling at it with a brush, right? It's got to be like a wire brush. It can't just be a hairbrush with bristles, because then it's going to really pull out of the backing, right? You don't want to antagonize it, but the wire brushes, the little wire, are they still called bristles? Are so spaced out, right? Those are also great. The dog's brushes for cleaning out your rug hooking frame. All of those little needles, whatever gauge combs you have, if it's like 100 needles per inch or less or more, those dog's combs do a great job pulling fluff out from the frames. And they don't really hurt the frames, right? Because the needles are so spaced out. It'd be the same thing with something like this. I wish I had, and I know I don't, but I know I do at the studio for the Ultra Punch, even though that's acrylic yarn, right? That's acrylic yarn, that very thin gauge for the punching. They do have you in some projects dating, circa 1980, 1990, punch high and without even clipping, pulling at it with the little brush that looks just like a dog brush. And it doesn't give it this woolly look, but it gives it a super fluffy look. It's very surprising that would work, but it does work. So, yeah, it makes me, and Linda says, all in all, splendid combination of techniques. Absolutely. It's a real curiosity. It's a real curiosity. It's a great piece. And I hope that we will learn definitively what was done. I'll send her a message and I'll see if she might spill, because it can't be a secret, right? We all deserve to know, and we all share great information when we find it. This is very intriguing, and it's the great rug hooking mystery of right now for sure. So what a beautiful cover, right? I should have said that first. What a beautiful cover. Oh, Rita says K embroidered fleece on some of this piece. Rita, come back to me. K embroidered fleece on some of this piece. Okay, so she did applique. Do you mean she did applique? Like she maybe embroidered, meaning stitched large pieces of it with machine. Okay, Rita, leave it to you, my love. Leave it to you. You are so good. Okay, well done, Karen. That was your guess. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. It's just so, I think, positive that we're looking at rug hooked pieces now that are a composite of lots of different techniques, right? We have for a long time been talking about rug hooking like it has to be absolutely pure. And more often now we're seeing pieces that combine different techniques, different disciplines, right? Things with needles, rubbing shoulders with our classic hook and punch. I think this is a very positive thing for the craft, because we're just talking about fiber, right? For me, it doesn't matter if it's sewn, hooked, punched, whatever, stapled, glued. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Rita says she will be happy to tell you what she did. I'm gonna ask her because it has been a great mystery, and I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing. See, that is with a piece like this, that is its own beast, no pun intended, trying to decide what parts you want raised and what parts it makes sense to go to a different technique, right, to get the effect that you want. Because why kind of just hammer a square peg into a circle hole to get something that looks sort of like what you want when you could just take out a sewing needle or a machine and attach it that way? Excellent. That's fantastic. All right. So it looks like we have a good lead there. Rita, thank you so much. I will definitely write to her. I've written to her before, and she's always been very, very kind. Incredible talent. So, oh, wait a minute. Did I do that? Hold on one second. Oh, there we are. There we are. So that cover was something else, man, I'll tell you. And then we immediately go to the table of contents. Yep, we immediately go to the table of contents and, yep, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at what is here. Exciting, they're already advertising Rug Cooking Week Solder, the 28th annual, August 2024. It looks like exhibit August 14 through 17, includes main features, special and group exhibits, plus Rug Cooking Magazine's 34. Let's talk about that in just a minute. And then we go to table of contents. It shows us all of the grand things that we are about to look forward to. And then that brings us right to the spread for 2023 call for entries. I've mentioned this before. I'm going to mention this again. Whether or not you think you are amazing in the cat's pajamas, I bet you are. I bet you are. And I bet you have a piece that you really love. And maybe you feel like it's not technically your best piece, but it's just, there's something about that piece that you could never recreate. It's got some special je ne sais quoi happening. Maybe that's a piece that you want to enter, right, for Celebration 2023. And, if never try, never win, right? If nobody ever tried, there would be no Celebration 30 anything, right? Because there'd be no Celebration 1. It's good to put yourself out there sometime. And we know judges always have different aesthetics and taste, personal taste. This is not the kind of a competition when we're talking about entering art. It's not the kind of a competition that you should ever cry yourself to sleep or let it break your heart if your piece doesn't get in, right? Because it's very subjective. It's based on the opinion of the people who are judging. And it's going to be different from one panel to the next, year to year, according to individual human people's taste, right? And that is a moving target. But it is well worth thinking about entering your work. And this part of Rug Cooking Magazine is telling you way at the beginning, this is what you do to enter. They make it very, very easy. Primitive, commercial. So primitive is in a primitive style, right, with a larger cut. It defines each style, so you know just what they're expecting in that category. Commercial means that it's a purchase pattern. It is not your own drawing. There's a whole category of commercial. Adaption. So if your rug is inspired by someone else, but you've made quite a few changes and it's a bit of a mutation at that point, it's a bit of a fusion of you and the original designer, that's the adaptation category. And then the original category, which are designs that you did yourself. And there is not one category that's better than the next, right? They are just different. It's just defining it, right? But if you have pieces that you feel would fit into one of those categories, and pretty much every piece does, it'd be interesting to put yourself out there and try to enter. And then the next article is a report from Solder Village. And we are getting ourselves fired up, thinking about, it's very far off, but it will be fun to be there. I'm hoping, I can't imagine I'm going to have the same problem I had this past year with the nerve problem. That was like a hopefully once in a lifetime fun plot twist. But Rug Cooking Week brings out the best story and photography by the editors of Rug Cooking Magazine. So it's a short article on some of the things to expect at Solder. And again, just raising awareness of the event. And I think encouraging people to send in their pieces for Celebration 34 so that they would be here at Solder, right? And Karen says, oh, I love the compositive multi-fiber pieces. I do too. I know, Karen, your hummingbird says it all, right? The fact that you did a hummingbird with so many different techniques in it. Um, yeah. So this is great. They're just getting everybody excited and saying, hey, why not you? Why not you, right? So something to think about. And then we immediately move to, oh, this is from the solder article, just a few pretty pictures of this past year at solder, right? So this would be the exhibit for celebration number 33. 33 or 34? Gosh, sorry. No, 33. Sorry. Ding dong. So then we slide into another great article by Deborah Smith, and it's called Fire and Ice. Iceland's landscape and culture inspire rug hookers. So the landscape and the culture inspire the rug hookers. Oh God, absolutely. How could the culture? I mean, it's such a it has such a look, Iceland, right? So design wise. So this piece is called. This is in the article. This piece is called Icelandic Lamb, and it is 30 by 25, number 7, number 8 cut wool on linen, designed and hooked by Deborah Smith of Landisburg, Pennsylvania. Deborah was the former editor of Rug Hooking Magazine, right? God, it's like how soon I forget. What a jerk I am. Logo used with permission. It was a restaurant sign in Reykjavik that caught her eye. The owner of the restaurant gave me permission to render his sign in wool. Oh, it is very, very pretty. He loved the idea. And just as important, the food was fabulous. Well, that is important. So it looks like Deborah took, it's a beautiful article, visually gorgeous. It looks like she was traveling in Iceland and she found some things that were inspiring, just like what I was saying earlier about the Tony Sarg, the sea monster and that whole wind up of putting that thing in the water and having the fishermen tell tales about it. Inspiration is everywhere, and a lot of the best inspiration comes from things that you experience, right? Not just that someone tells you something and you go, oh, that sounds pretty, I bet I can really get some mileage with that. But when you experience something, it becomes part of your memory museum and it becomes dear. And it's often these things that we experience in places we've been to that, we really want to collect and capture, right? Depending on the kind of person you are. I always noticed when I was a tour guide, and I'm not a psychologist by any stretch of the imagination, but I always noticed that there was almost this like rabid need to photograph everything. And now that I have kids, I mean, I do a lot of that myself with the kids. But I do try to make a point of putting the camera down and actually participating in life while we're doing the things I want photos of. But I noticed in those days that there was this thing about, having a bus group of people. And as soon as we get off the bus, it's like, show me Plymouth Rock. Where's Plymouth Rock? Show it to me. Where is it? And it's like, oh, it's down there. And then they're all, and of course you are. I mean, I took a bunch of pictures of Plymouth Rock too. I took pictures of the Mayflower too, and everything that was there. But there's something about the way that we collect, right? And for some people, it's photography. It's like somehow if you take a photo of it, even if it's just like, and you didn't even really look at it with your eyes, other than with the camera between you, somehow you own part of it because you have connected yourself, right, through that photograph to that object, right? And thus to that trip, to that history. You own part of that. You, not in a nasty way, you have become part of that. And that really is exciting. And I totally understand why, at first it used to annoy me when I was a tour guide. It would be like, I'm sorry, could we all calm down for 2 seconds and actually experience what we're doing here? But I would never say that, of course. Everybody has to be who they are. But over the years, I kind of chilled out a little bit and realized, yeah, I think that's what they're doing, right? Like as if I know, but I think that they're just trying to connect themselves. And when they get home, they're going to look at the picture and go, oh, remember that day on Plymouth Rock? And, having taken a photo of it. But yeah, it's collecting memories, but in a very tangible way. You actually get the pictures. So there is a thing about, traveling and taking pictures of places you've been, and then that great moment where you get home and you're not traveling anymore and it's all home sweet home. And you're going through your camera and you're looking at all the pictures you took, and And you're thinking, not only was that a great restaurant, like Deborah Smith, not only was that a great restaurant, but what a great sign. I'd like to, make something out of that. And then it's the ultimate souvenir, isn't it? Because you went there and you enjoyed it. It was part of that day, and it's in your memory museum firmly, and you can make it even more permanent and more special and creative by celebrating it and turning it into this colossal souvenir. So that's really, for me, what this article is about, because she's traveling around and she's finding things that are really inspiring for her. Road signs like this, right? Different kinds of characters too, not just the same sort of um, alphabetic character collection that we have in English, right? A little bit different. So there's something going on with the text that's a bit more unusual here, something foreign for sure. And it's just a beautiful sign. It looks like it's saying that there's a settled village coming up. Kirk is a church. So it looks like they're saying there's a settlement of some sort. I don't speak Icelandic. But I'm looking at the German root and guessing what the sign means. But it's certainly a sign that we don't have here. What a beautiful sign at that, right? It is funny how the Germanic languages, they just don't like to take breaks in between the words, right? It's like it might as well be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, because it's like, you want to come up for air there. Dutch is exactly the same. It used to drive me nuts. But this is a truly beautiful article. It really is. It's just lovely. This piece is called Hot Seat. It's designed and hooked by Tracy Granger from East, so we've looked at Tracy's work many times, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania in 2023. Um, Hooked by Tracy. And it's a stool, as you can see. And the article is talking about, I'm just skimming as we're going, because I never look at the material before we go on so we can look at it together. But the article is talking about how there's yarn stores in the cities, and the large towns cater to tourists, but they're still selling yarn in a lot more places, I think, than typically, for example, in the U.S. you would find yarn. It says this is quote, they sell lovely yarn, but most often that yarn is not locally produced. For the real deal, the locally grown and dyed wool and sweaters knit from the wool, you have to head out to the country, which makes perfect sense. Stop for lunch or stop for gas, and you may find in many of the small, unassuming buildings a shelf or two of sweaters, hats, socks, and gloves. What a treat to look at handcrafted knitwear as you fill up your car with gasoline. God, that's so true, isn't it? I mean, even when I just go to the gas station, there's some pumpkins outside. I'm like, whoa, losing my mind. But can you imagine finding fiber at the gas station? Man, you could choke back like a couple of hot dogs, and maybe get a skein of yarn all at the same time. Amazing. Really, really pretty. And I'm looking at inspiration for the stool. Oh, so the inspiration for the stool was this child's sweater that they spotted at a local knitting store in Selfoss, Iceland. Interesting, isn't it? That is a beautiful, like, flame variation down in the bottom of a fair isle. And you can see how that does have a direct relationship to Hot Seat, that pretty flower that became the bench. Isn't that gorgeous? Michelle, you'd lose your mind too. And it's like, doesn't it seem like if you were, for example, to find yarn at the gas station, wouldn't you be way more likely to buy it? Even if you didn't need it or it wasn't exactly your thing, I think I would just be tempted to buy it as a situational problem, right? Because it's like, uh-oh. I mean, you're confronted by a fiber when you're not expecting it. I think in those situations, I'm way more likely to buy something than I would be if, for example, I went to a yarn store or a fiber festival, where I will certainly buy stuff. But you know what I mean when you go somewhere and you see like a lot of garbagey stuff that you're not interested, but then you see one or two like hand knit, fingerless gloves or a scarf. For me, I'm way more likely to buy in those situations because they're like the dark horses that are sprinkled in with all the garbagey stuff. And that's always exciting to find that stuff. Oh, Gail, good to see you. Good morning in Australia, my love. Rise and shine time, is it? Good to have you. We're still going strong. Oh, and then it came over here to this conversation. And, we've had hints of this in other countries. The Netherlands I was in the Netherlands for many, many years. We saw a lot of yarn and fiber because everybody knits, but not like we're talking about here in Iceland. I didn't see it, at gas stations. Um, We also didn't have a car. We rode our bikes. So maybe it was at gas stations. But in this case, this little blurb is saying, shopping for yarn in Iceland? Just head over to your local hardware or grocery store. Now, they definitely, in the Netherlands, did not have yarn at my grocery store. That is for sure. In this small hardware store, we met a woman pushing a shopping cart overloaded. And I do mean flowing over. Well, you can see that and look at how they have them coiled. Isn't that funny? They're like Cinnabons. Ooh, 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 ooh. That is inspiring, isn't it? How funny is that? With huge cones of yarn. She'll take it home. She'll take it all home, knit several sweaters, bring those sweaters back to be sold in the store or in her local restaurant or knitting co-op. Dang, that is fun, isn't it? Those people are having fun over there for sure with their fiber. That is really interesting. Has anybody introduced them to rug hooking? That is the question. They seem to have fiber coming out of there everywhere. And man, we could see some hooked rugs coming out of Iceland. This is beautiful too. This photo really got me. The image of the wool dyed with plants found around Eric the Red's home site in a remote inland valley. I just thought, let me unlock this photo so I can shimmy it. Isn't that amazing? That's called silvers. So cool. Oh, Michelle, I didn't know that. That is cool. You mean those rounds of the yarn when they're coiled up like that? Those are silvers? That is really cool. Isn't there something about natural dyes that you can't mistake them for, you can't mistake the look, the way the color comes out for anything else. I always feel like at fiber festivals when I see yarns that are being displayed and sold, it's very clear at first glance which ones are done with natural dyes, and the tag will always say. But yeah, there's just something about them. And I think the juxtaposition of this color palette is like the best color palette I've ever seen. I mean, it's just extraordinary. The juxtaposition of that against the photo of the flowers, I think it's just beautiful. And then down below, oh, I cut it off a little bit. Let me show you here. There's a photo underneath of like glacial ice chunks. Glacial ice chunks. You know what that sounds like? It sounds cold. Doesn't it sound cold? But beautiful. I mean, I think I could take cold if I could find yarn at the gas station. So those are the glacial ice chunks. Very different. Very different. Gosh. That really, I mean, it's just a beautiful article, really. Like the photography, I'm looking over here at this photo too. It's just a beautiful article. I have to admit, I'm not much of a nature person. I'm a very villagey person. I like a good village where there's like a good, country store, some cute cafes, somewhere to have a nice drink, like an old tavern or something like that. I want to buy a few cute things in a gallery, that kind of thing. But when I see an article like this, I think, oh God, maybe I do want some nature. Teddy always says to Joss when something gross is happening, like there's a spider or a bug on something, he always goes, Joss, you deal with that. You're good at nature. She is good at nature. Teddy and I are not so good at nature. But that might change, right? That might change. Next article. We're actually doing okay for time. Let me just take a sip here. Buttons, the dog is losing his mind down there. Next article is by Laura Salome. Salome. Sorry, I said Salami. That's not funny. I'm sorry. I think it's Salome, like the character. Sorry about that. I just did it phonetically. I'm not thinking. I guess I'm getting a little tired, but I think it must be Salome. Beautiful article called Truly Traditional Hooking, Using What You Have. This is one of my favorite subjects. I'm bound to love this article. This piece right here is, oh, wait a minute. Let me move forward a little bit. This piece is called Red Rocks and Superfund Sites. Portion of rug hooked with repurposed t-shirts and plastic bags. I think the plastic bags are those black centers because everything, they are really lovely. Black with a little bit of blue. Everything else really truly looks like a mushy cushy loop made from a t-shirt. What a great fusion of two things. At its simplest, rug hooking is about pulling loops of fiber through a woven backing. That's it. All the rest, and this is text by Laura Salome, all the rest, pretty hand-dyed wool or yarn, linen or cotton foundations, fancy frames, it's just gravy. Yet I fear that's sometimes lost, as an art craft has long had a reputation of being expensive and a rich woman's sport. Well, that is absolutely true. I would reiterate that sentiment to anyone who has ears. That is absolutely true. And it is a shame and a travesty that it has been, for lack of a better word, hijacked by the 20th century and people who did have the funds to use only, wonderfully milled and fine fabrics. Um, we there was a huge chunk of time that most rug hookers absolutely lost track of the fact that you can hook with anything that goes through your backing. And this article, I think, is going to be reminding us of that. Hold on just a second. I want to show you this a lot closer up. This is called Memory of Water. What a great piece. 18.5 by 22.25, hooked with old plastic bags. All old plastic bags. Catherine says, I really love the work and philosophy of Laura Salome. Yeah, this is a beautiful article, Catherine. I feel like I've heard her name, and I couldn't have, for the life of me, sort of put a style to the name. And now that I know that she wrote this article, I'm an instant huge fan, because this is the kind of rhetoric that we should be repeating over and over and over again. Memory of Water done with plastic bags. This is so beautiful. Has a little flavor of Paul Klee, has a little flavor of Brock. It is really extraordinary, and it's a beautiful kind of pop art piece because the material is so unexpected. It's all plastic bags. It's just a beautiful, beautiful article. Let's hold on that for 1 second. I didn't mean to skip that far forward. So this is all truly traditional rug hooking. And yeah, I'm really happy that this article is in here because it is truly traditional. This is 19th century style rug hooking. Poverty craft, right? Using whatever you have around you to hook. I love finding this article in here. This is very, very good. So there's quite a few more pieces in that article. Oh gosh, wait a minute. I'm going to show you this in the camera. Falls almost here. Detail. Portion of piece hooked and repurposed. Textiles, wool, yarn, and glass seed beads. Just a pretty crop, this piece here. If you can see, I didn't put that in the slideshow. But that's another one of the things that you can get very well with non-traditional materials. Now, isn't that ironic, right? Because the traditional material is wool, is like milled wool, is wool strips, like wool fabric cut into strips. That's traditional rug hooking. Isn't it ironic? Because that's not traditional. Traditional is cutting up your coat and your underpants with a pair of scissors. That's traditional. So we have flipped the language on that in the 20th century. Interesting. But when you are using non-traditional, I'm gonna keep the same language, or we're gonna be confused. When we're talking about hooking with non-traditional things like T-shirts, like cut up clothing, like garbage bags, plastic bags, we are looking at a way better likelihood of getting a lot more texture and variety into the piece. If you don't like texture and variety into your piece, and you're like, nope, I like it when things are clipped nice. I'm Edward Scissorhands of rug hooking. I like it when things have a good even pile. Then you don't like that look. But it's good to know that about yourself, because there's no right way. As long as you don't object to other people hooking that way, and I know that you don't. I know that you never would. This piece that I clicked on is in this article also. This is a fantastic piece, very surprising piece. You can see it's shaped, right? In the background, it's cut out, right? It's cut out, it's shaped. It's a very irregular shape. The bottom right-hand corner is the wall, and the top above the girl is the wall. It's all shaped. Oh, Catherine said she's also known as high on hooking. Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm such a ding dong. I miss a lot because of the pace I move at, and I'm probably missing great things like Laura. This piece is called Clothed and Fed. It's an irregular shaped piece, but it's 20 by 20 using discarded clothing. Designed and hooked by Linda Friedman Schmidt, 2018. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, I'm gonna have to read some of this to you too. But this is just an extraordinary piece. Again, it's shaped. It's kind of like a latchkey kid, isn't it? She's got she's got the key to somewhere, and she's got a jelly sandwich, maybe peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Not looking particularly happy, looking like she's doing a lot of fending for herself. Maybe that's just my read on it. It is a very serious piece. It's also very, very beautiful. I love the shading in it. And let's look at this, and then we'll continue. I don't have a ton. It's not a huge issue, but it is a glorious issue. Let me just read this because at the end of the article it says Laura Salome began hooking and punching in Massachusetts 20 years ago. Today she lives, hooks, and teaches in New Mexico. Where, Joss, is that you? Where there's a long tradition of fiber art and textile making. She's president of the state's only rug hooking guild, the Adobe Wool Arts Guild. Oh, that's such a pretty name. And active in the studio online group. And you can find more. Very, very good, Catherine. You can find more of her and her story and the website is called highonhooking.com, and on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, High on Hooking. So that actually took us a good way through the magazine, but there's a few more slides. I'm not going to rush through them tonight, particularly because we have a buddy over and I'm going to want to drop him home. Yeah, I've got maybe another sort of half a presentation, half of this. So this will do us perfectly for Monday. We can conclude our look at this issue of Rug Cooking Magazine, which again is November, December 2023. We can hopefully conclude our look at this particular issue on Monday on Ribbon Candy Hooking, and that will be at noon Eastern Standard Time. And I just want to remind you, tomorrow I will be in Springfield, Massachusetts at the Big E Fiber Festival, and I'm going to document that. I'm shaking the camera, Jay says, every time I touch the table. I'm sorry. I've been touching the table a lot. I'm sorry about that. The stupid stand just broke, so I have to lean it on something. I'll figure it out before we have a show on Monday. But I'll be at that fiber festival, and I'll try to document as much of it as I can. I'll try to have quick little videos with some of my buddies there who have rug hooking brands, beautiful brands, and I'm sure there'll be a lot to look at and a lot to talk about. So I'll capture as much as I can and put as much of it online over the weekend for you to see too, while I'm there tomorrow. That'll be a lot of fun. Sorry about the shaking. Oh man. I should have checked my phone earlier, but I never check it when we're doing our thing, you know. So, all right. Well, hey, happy Friday. Happy weekend. You made it right onto the bridge of the weekend. Now you want everything to slow down, right? And really enjoy it. It was a fun night for me too. I love just taking it. I just love taking it easy and chatting, you know. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow. So think about that, and then be looking at Ribbon Candy Hooking because those new products are coming up. The Jane Austen Advent Calendar, 25 days, right, of Jane Austen bags, and that's going to be all themed out for the month of December. And I'll put up the Frost and Frost Design Light class, Edward Sands Frosts and the Robert Frost combo, and I will put up the Hook Along Magdalena's Christmas, which features the sort of upside down Magdalena tree in the style of an evergreen. Those products are going to pop up hopefully in the next couple of hours before I completely crash and fall asleep. I'll get as much up as I can, and I will check in with you over the weekend. Otherwise, I will see you on Monday here on the Ribbon Candy Hooking channel at noon Eastern Standard Time. I will see you then. Happy weekend, everybody. Make the most of it. It's daylight savings as well if you change your clock, so don't forget that on Saturday. That's always miserable to be late for appointments and stuff like that. Susie, great to see you. Oh, you too, Diane. Thank you, Anne. I'm glad you enjoyed. Mom, good to see you. Gotta see you soon. Have a great night, everybody. I will see you